The NBA is trying so hard to hide this from the internet. But honestly, it's way too late. The secret is out. Spurs legend Sean Elliott just went off. He totally ripped into every single NBA player who came up through the AAU system. And wait, it gets crazier. He didn't stop there. He actually said Victor Wembanyama is way better than all the American players. Yeah, that's when the whole league completely lost their minds. So how did this whole crazy drama start? Check this out.
He has a Kobe-type mentality. He's had it
for weeks now. The whole NBA has been having a massive meltdown. Why? Because a Spurs legend finally said out loud what every fan was already thinking. Sean Elliott did an interview with Basketball Network. And instead of giving us that same boring, safe, PR-friendly answer to protect his paycheck, he dropped a total bomb on today's overpaid superstars. He actually compared Victor Wembanyama to Kobe Bryant. He said from day one, this kid has had that exact same crazy, locked-in villain mode drive to win. But here is the part that completely broke the internet. Quote that sent every sports show and group chat into full panic mode. Elliott straight up said Wemby is built way different from these American players. He made it super clear. Wemby is not here to make friends with guys on other teams. He doesn't care at all about joining that soft, buddy-buddy superstar club everyone else is so obsessed with right now.
He's not concerned about being your friend or this guy's friend, or he does not care what anybody else is going to say.
Right on cue, the TV talking heads started crying about it. Soft analysts whined that Elliott was being toxic. They said his old-school basketball mindset is dead. Give me a break. These clowns missed the whole point. Elliott wasn't just talking trash. He was exposing a huge problem that has been ruining the NBA for years. Wemby is a giant middle finger to the modern AAU system. You know, the system that teaches American players to hold hands and be best friends. Today's stars act like influencers and business partners. But this 7'4" French alien? He is ice cold. He breaks every single social rule in the modern NBA. And you don't even have to take my word for it. Just watch him before any random Tuesday night game. Proof is right there. Your favorite stars are at half-court giggling. They do crazy handshakes and joke with the other team. Meanwhile, Wemby walks right past them like they are ghosts. He hates small talk. The guy walks up with a fake smile. Wemby ignores him. He uses his warm-ups to lock in and build a wall in his mind. He is sending a loud message. He didn't cross the ocean to network or build a brand. His only goal is to destroy the guy standing in front of him. Real fans know this. That is exactly how Kobe Bryant played the game. Kobe didn't see guys like Allen Iverson or Tracy McGrady as vacation buddies. He didn't want them on a podcast to talk about clothes. No way. They were targets. He wanted to break them and crush them on the court. And guess what? Wemby is bringing that exact same ruthless energy back. He is waking up a league that got way too soft. And that brings us right back to Sean Elliott's point. To understand how Wemby's brain works, you have to look at Kobe. The similarities are actually scary. Want to hear something wild that shows how deep this Kobe obsession goes? Wemby didn't just watch Kobe highlights on TikTok like a casual fan. He walked right into Texas and broke the biggest rule. On San Antonio's own media account, he started a total civil war among Spurs fans. They asked him to rank the all-time greats. Everyone expected him to say Tim Duncan. You know, the 5-time champ and godfather of the Spurs. But nope. Wemby flat out put Kobe Bryant over him. Old-school Spurs fans were ready to riot in the comments. Sure, Duncan is untouchable down there. But can you really blame the kid for picking Kobe?
Now, before I continue, we need to establish absolute, unyielding respect for what legends like Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan actually did. Comparing a 22-year-old kid to the Mamba isn't about downplaying Kobe's legendary footprint on the game. It is about understanding how a modern genius can take that same psychotic blueprint and upgrade it for a brand new era. And here is the mind-blowing twist in Wemby's brain chemistry that nobody saw coming. Jordan and Kobe ran their teams through pure, unadulterated tyranny. Like they were basically terrorizing their own teammates to weed out the weak and force compliance. And that was honestly necessary in an era like that. You definitely didn't want to face people like Isaiah Thomas or Bill Laimbeer with a player you couldn't trust to hold his own out there. It was war back then in the NBA. Remember when Jordan punched Steve Kerr in the face during practice? Well, you won't believe what Wemby is pulling off in San Antonio right now, because his leadership model is completely different, and it is honestly brilliant. Instead of turning his savage energy inward and alienating his own guys, Wemby has built an ironclad, unbreakable brotherhood inside that locker room. He is tight with guys like Stephon Castle and Dylan Harper. He hosts late-night team video game sessions, protects his teammates whenever the media tries to bait him into talking trash about them, and buys entirely into Greg Popovich's family-first culture. Do not mistake this for him being soft, though, because this is where you might fall into the trap. By keeping his own locker room completely unified and fiercely loyal, Wembanyama has created his own army that is willing to march straight into the fire with him. However, he saves 100% of his cold, antisocial, borderline psychopathic energy exclusively for the other 29 franchises in the league. Inside the facility, you are family, but the second you put on a different jersey, he's coming for you. If you want to see what happens when that mentality kicks in, you need to look at the absolute chaos that just went down in the playoffs against the Minnesota Timberwolves. During a hyper-physical Game 4, the entire arena came to a halt when Wemby got hit with a flagrant 2 ejection after hitting Naz Reid with his elbow. The media instantly started clutching their pearls, expecting the usual corporate-mandated PR apology. But Wemby didn't give them a single inch. He didn't apologize, and he didn't back down. Now, imagine Kobe or MJ in that same situation. That is precisely how they would have reacted. They wouldn't be writing apology notes. They would be using that violence to set a boundary for the rest of the series and instill fear in their opponents. And guess what? The old-school legends are absolutely loving every single second of it. You had ex-players like Charlie Villanueva and Raymond Felton dropping raw, unfiltered analysis and passionately defending Wembanyama's physical playoff demeanor. Villanueva straight up called him the new face of the league because he is single-handedly dragging us back to the physical era of the NBA. An era where real men actually had to fight for their respect on the court instead of relying on soft whistleblowing from the refs. The most terrifying part of this entire situation, however, is that Wemby backs up that violent mental edge with insane defensive numbers that shouldn't even be possible. Earlier in the series, Wemby put on a horror show for the Timberwolves, racking up 12 blocks in a single game. Villanueva and Felton openly admitted on their shows that this current generation of pampered stars is fundamentally unequipped to handle a giant who is that physical and has that mentality. But here's the crazy part that will make you question everything you know about the modern league, because this entire soft culture didn't just happen by accident. There is a specific corporate pipeline that manufactures every single one of these soft-baked superstars that Wemby is currently terrorizing. You want to know the exact moment the competitive soul of basketball officially dies? Yeah, it all traces back to the absolute circus that is the AAU circuit. The whole thing is basically a giant, multi-million-dollar summer camp pipeline where elite teenage prospects spend their entire childhoods riding around in air-conditioned tour buses, staying in the exact same luxury hotels, and playing in these goofy, uncoached shoe company showcases. By the time these kids even hit draft night, they've spent half their careers trading jerseys, hyping each other up on Instagram, and building these cozy little brand alliances. It is night and day compared to the 80s and 90s when guys like Isaiah Thomas, Michael Jordan, and Larry Bird would genuinely rather eat glass than be friends with their rivals. Back then, if you wore a different jersey, you were an active threat to another man's livelihood. But today, the second the final buzzer sounds, these dudes are sprinting to the center circle for post-game hugs, making TikToks together, and planning their next coordinated yacht vacation in Ibiza. It completely drains the competitive battery out of the league. And the worst part is the domestic system completely spoils these kids before they've ever won a single meaningful basketball game in their lives. They get handed multi-million-dollar shoe deals, millions of social media followers, and total media protection from the media while they're still living with their parents. So instead of obsessing over getting better and winning actual hardware, their focus completely splits between the actual game and chasing the celebrity lifestyle. Look at a guy like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. The man is undeniably an absolute generational talent, but a massive chunk of his public identity is split between dropping 28 points and curating the most perfect, try-hard Instagram outfit carousel for the fashion blogs. When you're trying to split your energy between being a player and being a fashion influencer, you're just never going to reach that psychotic, unhinged peak that Kobe or MJ operate. You just aren't. And don't even get me started on the player podcast epidemic. We literally have active, max contract NBA superstars hosting weekly shows during the actual season, inviting their rivals onto their platforms to laugh, trade inside jokes, and completely water down any real on-court beef. It's kind of hard to lock in and try to destroy a dude in the playoffs when you were just giggling into a microphone with him 48 hours ago. Remember that episode where LeBron James sat down with Tyrese Halliburton and casually claimed the modern era was actually better than the 90s NBA? Yeah, that was the exact moment I knew we had a problem on our hands. Which is exactly why Sean Elliott was speaking absolute facts when he said Victor Wembanyama is fundamentally different from these other players.
Early on when we got him, I said he's not like these American-born players. He's not trying to be friends with anybody. He's trying to be friends with his teammates.
Wemby was raised completely outside of that poisonous, soft-baked domestic bubble. He grew up playing in the French professional leagues, getting kicked in the head by players older than him by 10 years or even more. That kind of environment completely strips you of any desire for performative camaraderie. But you want the ultimate proof of how cold this kid's approach actually is? Just look at what he did to his own countryman and longtime mentor, Rudy Gobert. Rudy spent nearly a decade acting like a big brother to Wemby, mentoring him and guiding him through the ranks. But the second the intense Spurs-Timberwolves playoff series kicked off this year, Rudy pulled back the curtain and admitted to the media that their years-long text thread had completely gone dark. Gobert literally told reporters, "Not right now. We say hi on the court, our families see each other, but we are focused, and that's it." Wemby didn't just outplay his mentor on the floor. He psychologically evicted him from his life the absolute second the postseason whistle blew. This level of petty psychological warfare is straight out of the Mamba playbook. It reminds me of that legendary story from the 2008 Beijing Olympics, when Kobe Bryant found out Team USA was playing Spain in the group stage. Pau Gasol was Kobe's literal Laker teammate, his brother, and the guy he won championships with in LA. But the night before the game, Kobe walked into the USA locker room and told his squad he was going to run straight through Pau's chest on the very first play of the game, just to...
really just let that sink in for a second.
He did exactly that. Kobe knew that for that tournament, Gasol was the enemy, and he had to be eliminated. Wembanyama has that same level of ice in his veins. But speaking of international competitions, the international stage is the exact place where Victor's most toxic, deeply personal, and borderline unhinged beef was born. Forget everything ESPN tries to sell you about some friendly, market-driven rivalry between two skinny big men. That corporate-mandated narrative is a total fairy tale for the casual fans. The real beef between Victor Wembanyama and Chet Holmgren is deep, deeply personal, and honestly, borderline unhinged. Jeff Teague actually blew the lid off this entire situation on the Club 520 podcast, and he basically confirmed what real hoopheads already knew. These two genuinely cannot stand the sight of. To understand why he has this massive, rent-freak vendetta against Chet, you have to rewind the tape all the way back to July 2021, to the FIBA Under-19 World Cup final in Riga, Latvia. Team USA was heavily favored, loaded with all these hyped American AAU kids, and they expected to just cruise to a gold medal. But a 17-year-old Victor Wembanyama representing France decided to put on an absolute horror show for them. The mainstream media loves to conveniently scrub the raw data from this game, but the receipts don't lie. Wemby completely outclassed the entire American roster, dropping 22 points, grabbing 10 boards, and swatting away a terrifying 8 blocks. He was single-handedly dragging a bunch of French underdogs to a historic upset until the refs hit him with a devastating 5th foul, forcing him to watch the final minutes from the bench. France ended up losing by just 2 points, but here is the exact moment his villain arc officially started. When it came time to hand out the trophies, the tournament officials gave Chet Holmgren the tournament MVP. Chet got the glory, despite getting thoroughly and utterly cooked by Wembanyama on an individual level the entire night. You know for a fact, a hyper-competitive psycho like Wemby took that personally. He flew back to France with a silver medal and a mental hit list, treating Chet like the dude who walked away with his rightful award. Fast forward to the league today, and the media is still trying to force-feed everyone this soft, marketing-driven narrative about how they're co-built for the future. During a live post-game interview on NBA on Prime, this reporter tried to set Wemby up with one of those generic, PR-approved questions about his personal rivalry with Chet and how they motivate each other as peers. Instead of playing along with the script, Wemby delivered a cold, calculated response that completely executed Chet's star status on live television. Wemby didn't even utter Chet's name. He just looked straight at the reporter and said, "The MVP is on that court. He is our main focus. Anybody is hard to guard when you have to help on the MVP." The genius of that quote is absolutely filthy because Victor didn't just downplay Chet. He completely erased him from the narrative. By pivoting every single ounce of praise directly to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Wemby publicly categorized Holmgren as a mere byproduct of someone else's greatness. He basically told the world that Chet isn't a superstar, he's just some guy who benefits from playing next to a real MVP. That is an elite level of banter that would make prime Kobe proud. But if you think it stops at just banter, you have no idea how deep his obsession with Kobe really goes. The NBA was left completely speechless during a post-game interview when Wemby casually admitted that he genuinely thinks about Kobe Bryant almost every single day of his life, especially when his body is completely cooked or his mind starts playing tricks on him. It's why Sean Elliott used the words borderline insane and borderline genius to describe how Victor's brain works. That's the exact type of psychoterminology people used strictly for Kobe and Wemby. And you want to see how far ahead of the others? Look at the absolute joke that is the modern All-Star game. Kenny Smith openly called out the whole league on TNT because all our pampered domestic stars treat the weekend like a walk in the park just to protect their sneaker brands. Meanwhile, Wemby goes out there playing like it was a life or...
And shout out to Wembanyama, who's made this statement that he was going to play hard. It reminded me of the late, great Kobe Bryant at one time.
It's the exact same energy as that legendary story where Kobe showed up to a literal Hurricane Katrina charity game, a match meant for pure vibes and fundraising, and treated it like Game 7 of the finals, locking dudes up full court and refusing to let anyone smile. Honestly, Wemby's obsession with being one of the greatest players is so toxic that Popovich and the Spurs training staff had to invent a literal rule to ban him from the gym, just so he'd go home and sleep. It's hilarious because it's the exact same problem Pop had decades ago when he had to physically lock Tim Duncan out of the facility because he wouldn't stop shooting baseline bank shots at midnight. But with Victor, it's a whole different level of manic. Phil Jackson used to have to do the same thing to Kobe with the Lakers because Bryant would be in the gym at 3 a.m. shooting in total. This is where the story gets really dirty though. Victor openly admitted that before he got drafted, he had this whole list of NBA players he absolutely worshipped from afar back in France. But after just a few months of playing against them, seeing their actual work ethics up close and watching them obsess over social media clout and the Hollywood celebrity lifestyle, he completely lost all respect for them. He literally scrubbed the entire list from his brain. He realized his childhood idols were basically just talented influencers who didn't actually care about leaving a legacy. But the wildest part about this is that it isn't just Sean Elliott noticing the shift. The other old-school legends are watching Victor and realizing American basketball dominance is officially dead. Shaquille O'Neal literally derailed a live broadcast on Inside the NBA just to look straight into the camera and call Wemby the most perfect big man in the history of the sport. Let that sink in for a second. Shaq, the same legendary certified primetime hater who has spent the last decade tearing down every single modern center for being too soft, too weak, or too obsessed with shooting threes, completely bent the knee, while maintaining that the current league is still way too soft.
Well, this game we're watching now, I don't know what the f*** we're watching now.
And Shaq didn't just stop there. He straight up said that the era of the American NBA star being the alpha of the NBA is officially... For decades, the undisputed baddest dudes on the planet were homegrown products like Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, and Magic Johnson, but right now, the league's entire power structure has been completely hijacked by a relentless wave of international beasts. You've got Nikola Jokic out in Denver. You've got Giannis Antetokounmpo bringing a level of terrifying, unhinged physicality that makes modern domestic defenders look like tissue paper. Then there's Luka Doncic, who was playing against grown-ass, smoke-smoking men in EuroLeague at age 16, meaning nothing some overhyped AAU kid says to him on the court is ever going to rattle his cage. And now, Victor is another player of this entire foreign invasion. The underlying reason our domestic superstars are completely panicking behind the scenes comes down to a massive structural flaw. While American prospects are pampered inside a multi-million-dollar AAU bubble, taught from age 14 to worry about their Instagram aesthetic, their custom sneaker colorways, and which rival superstar they want to team up with on a super team later, these international guys were forged in hard work and grind. That's exactly why our homegrown stars have become so hypersensitive, mentally fragile, and completely obsessed with lifestyle branding. But this leaves us with one massive, terrifying question that nobody in the media is brave enough to actually talk about yet. If Victor is already operating with this level of psychopathic, Kobe-level mental warfare while playing with a young, developing Spurs roster, what happens to the rest of the league when San Antonio pairs him with another elite, cold-blooded, maybe even European superstar?